Push the live stream. Hello, and welcome to Jason Cavness Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cavness. Here at CavnesssHR, we're getting ready to release the MVP of our CavnesssHR platform, and we're signing up people for the waitlist for our beta testing. To sign up for our waitlist, go to www.CavnesssHR.co. Once again, to sign up for our waitlist, www.CavnesssHR.co. Our guest today is Robert Wright. Robert, you ready to be great today?
I am. Thank you so much, Jason.
Robert is a nationally recognized leader in the veteran community, experienced in strategic and economic development, public policies, and veteran initiatives. After a 20-plus military career, he serves as the CEO and CFOO for 2 veteran nonprofit startups, helping over 1,000 veterans with employment and social services. He is a founder of Sound Sustainability with a mission to improve the hearing health of the world. He received his Executive Master of Public Administration and MS in Entrepreneurship degrees from the University of Washington, was recognized as a Husky 100. He has dedicated his life to helping others and focuses his philanthropy work on racial equity. He currently serves as a board member for the Social Venture Partners Seattle and Sound Discipline. He lives with his wife, Ashley, and their cat, Simon, in Edmonton, Washington. Robert, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason. Listening to you read my bio, I always forget about some of those things I've done, as well as just kind of, it's a unique experience to be able to have someone else read about yourself. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's always like an eye opener, right? Somebody read your bio.
It's like, crap, I did all that since I've gotten out of the military. No, I'm excited to be here, excited to share a lot today about my company, Sound Sustainability, why I founded it, talk about, just about anything that comes up for us, share, a little bit of my military experience, as well as, what it means to be a veteran, and organizations I love to support and hope that others can help and support out there, especially in the Seattle, greater Puget Sound area.
Now, Robert, where are you originally from?
Actually, I was born in Idaho, so okay. I can call myself Pacific
Northwest.
Surprisingly, yes. But even though I was born there on an Air Force base, I left as a child and moved all around the world. Mostly grew up Okinawa, Japan, Germany, and East Coast South, mostly.
Cool. So what's Social Venture Partners in Seattle?
Yes. So SVP Seattle, another way they're known as, is basically, it's a nonprofit that supports and looks right now as we have a statement about being an anti-racist organization. So basically we look at how do we, grant funding as well as help support our partners and learning about philanthropy, and then look at grant funding for community organizations that predominantly are led by POC, people of color leaders, as well as support people of color communities.
And how long have y'all been around?
They've been around for a minute,
for a while, okay.
Like 20 plus years. Okay. And the point is, started, from Microsoft, Paul Shoemaker, others, who founded it years back and ran it.
So it's not like they just started, all these. You see, all the 20,000 nonprofits just start 2 or 3 years with everything going on.
No, they've been around for a minute. I joined probably about coming up on 3 years ago, and the big reason I joined is after I left the military, I was trying to find what was next for me. And while in school, I wanted to volunteer with an organization that gave me opportunities to meet different organizations and experience different cultures and backgrounds. And, I didn't want to volunteer for 10 different nonprofits. So I found SVP that supports so many different backgrounds.
So what's your role there again?
So right now I'm as just a partner, I'm also on their board and I chair the racial equity committee.
And about how much time do you give for that, on average, weekly basis?
Weekly basis, maybe an hour or two, just depends.
Okay.
Even really after this podcast, I'm actually helping co-lead one of our grant making sessions, meeting with partners and speaking to them about what that looks like for the organization going forward.
Cool. And then you've been involved with an organization called Founders Institute, right?
Correct.
And what they do is they start really early ideas and basically take you to the arena, kick your teeth in. Is this really a good idea for you?
Oh, yeah.
I heard it's pretty brutal, right?
It's very intense.
Not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. I still have nightmares.
If you get your feelings so easily, don't go to Founders Institute.
Don't go there. A lot of people ask me should I go there? And I'm like, if you're going to put in the hours, go to it. I know I did the program while in my master's in entrepreneurship program at the same time.
So you just a good punishment.
It definitely was. Get done with school, and in the evening time, I have to go to that. I remember one of the assignments. I had to iterate my pitch deck. I had to go to 12 different people. every 4 people, I had to reiterate it based off of feedback, what I wanted to integrate in, and then go back and then pitch it to another 4 people. And I had to go through this 12 times, at least 12 different pitches, but 3
I'm
iterations.
sure there's like a short time limit too,
Oh
right?
yeah, it was just a week. So the homework assignments are intense, but I do believe and wholeheartedly support them in a point of that they do accelerate you. They have been tremendous in my launch. They've been tremendous in my learning journey, as well as just amazing support that they've given me even as an alumni since then.
And you took sound sustainability through them, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I know people went through. Everyone told me that it's not for the mentally faint at heart. It's not for the mentally weak.
Oh
Like
no. Yeah, I have friends, people went through my the master entrepreneurship program at the University of Washington. And they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go do that." I'm like,
maybe
one,
not.
maybe not. Just be honest, be open with yourself. Like it's not the easiest, pre-seed accelerator out there, but you also get what you put into it, and the more you put into it, the more you listen and learn. That better you'll be as an entrepreneur. The longer you'll be as a better as a founder as well.
And Founders Institute is across the nation, right? Across the
Correct.
world.
It's across. Yeah, it's globally. The Seattle cohort just kicked off again itself. And then I know they about to kick off one in Toronto. And they also are just starting with a founders lab, like helping with VCs.
Now they have interesting dynamic. I think like Techstars, YC Combinator, other ones generate. They give you like X amount of money for X amount of equity. They don't give you no money and don't take equity, but you have equity to other people in the program, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And they can kind of go.
So you want to make sure other ones succeed as much as you can, right?
Yes.
It really add to the teamwork thing, I would think.
Yeah, like so amazing thing I loved about it is the after part of graduation. So I stepped up and asked if I can I'll be the president of like our cohort. We had 5 founders graduate. We started with over like 25-ish. It's only 5 of us made it through. So like
it's a high dropout rate.
Yeah, that we help each other. And it's not just an imperative that we help each other because we're investing in each other's company. It's just a great thing to do when you're helping other entrepreneurs, helping other founders. Like you need a comfortable sounding board, that CEO circle of people to talk to, so that you feel trusted. And you spend 3.5, almost 4 months together, so you build that trust versus, oh, let me just go join a circle out there and pay all this money to be and talk to some CEOs I've never met before.
And it's just not tech startups, right? It's all kind of companies, right?
Correct. Yeah. We had, ones that graduated with us. One works on an AI where it does, for your meetings, it takes notes, flight AI. One fresh grease. Garrett works on trying to provide parts for, bicycles, and look at how do you, as a user, apologize, but how as a user, you can, find the right parts for your bike. And then one is working actually on the last mile delivery up in rural Alaska and everything.
So I'm guessing this is something you would do again if you had
I
to start another
definitely do
company.
it again. Yeah, if I start another company, I would go through in a heartbeat. Yeah, just the relationships you build, relationships already had prior there, the help they've since graduating. Continue to get emails like, "What can we do for you? What can we do for you? What introductions can we make?" There's an amazing event coming up that FI Connected asked me those who are veterans to come to, be able to pitch in front of the veteran affairs. And you don't get those type of things when you're, outside in other different accelerators. Like this opens up doors.
That brings up a good point. This is my opinion, right? Seattle's a great startup community. Harricama, it's not like it's solid, right? I mean, there's Founders Live, there's Bunker Labs, there's Startup Maven, there's Cigar and Stuff. I could go on, right?
Absolutely.
And all of them have like this Founders Institute pitch you told me. I had no idea about it, right?
Yep.
Like one time I got invited to MIT forum pitch. I didn't know what that was, right? There's all this stuff going on, and like who's collaborating, like who's mixing it up? It's like I don't know.
Yeah, there are silos. I mean, and I think we all recognize this, especially in this community. I just had an amazing opportunity with Innovate Leadership Network. We completed this is a 6-year of doing basically a major research project where it shows the ecosystem of Seattle for entrepreneurs. It shows the opportunities basically in 2 reports, like a report card that says how our system is looking for Seattle, and then a report card, not really a report card, but a report on what are the availability resources out there. And when I worked on this, it's just phenomenal to see how many amazing resources there are, but it's also like can be overwhelming because like there is so much, and where do you start, and who do you know that exactly to write? choice for you and the right fit for you as a founder.
And I think the challenge to a lot of people, like they're in this little silo, and like some outside silo reach out to them. Well, I don't know you. Like, are you kidding me? Right? You know, like I
Yeah,
always talk
the
like
gatekeepers.
yeah, like always like joke around like on LinkedIn. If you reach out to somebody you don't know, sometimes they come back. I don't know you when I connect with you. I always say, well, if I met you at the networking event in person, are you gonna say you don't know me in person?
Yep.
You know, and of course, you know, there's time, you know, there's
Yep.
limits, you know, all the kind of stuff's going on, you know.
It's about the luck and it's about the timing, but and it is about the network. And that's something like ever since leaving the military, I've like preached to people and told them like, hey, like networking matters. I am an introvert, at most times, but I have no problem networking. I know you know that. Like, I love to go talk to
Mhm.
people, but I'm so drained afterwards. But you have to go network. You have to walk up to people and you have to take chances. And hopefully that luck and timing matters when you get to them.
Yeah, I'm an introvert too, but people are like, you're not introvert. You have a podcast. I'm like, exactly. I control every fucking thing on the podcast,
Yep.
right? There's
Oh
no,
yeah.
yeah. And then talking about networking, I remember I was retiring from the military, and like I would say we're getting out now, like, and this is my opinion again, you have all these job fairs, right? 99.9% of military, you know, like you have to go somewhere you're not really only military, right? You got to go different places, you know, like
Yeah, that is a big challenge. I think still that plagues like since the post 9/11 transition world that as I left out of Joint Base Lewis McChord here in the Seattle area, every Wednesday they have a brown bag lunch. You
yeah,
can come there.
I forgot about those.
Yeah, like and it'd be the same companies, it'd be the same people. So you got to see the same characters all the time.
Financial advisors, you
Financial
know.
advisors, like for some reason, it just feels like the industries feel that veterans, those who come out of the military service, only fit in certain boxes. That we all want to be project managers, we all want to be program managers, we all want to, sell insurance, we all want to sell, securities. Like there's other things that we want to do with our lives. So more companies sometimes don't realize, like, hey, you may want a veteran to come work for you, or veterans actually want to work at your company. So like it's not just on industries, but it's also on the military to do a better job, on veterans to do a better job by going to these brown bags and saying, this is what you want versus like let other people speak for you.
Yeah, I got involved in tech startups just by accident, right? There was no tech startup coming to Fort Lewis, you know, pitching
Yep.
and I had no idea like entrepreneurship or all that kind of stuff was even no option until somebody reached out to me just by accident, right?
Well, they don't even push, like there's a whole transition program and there's these three categories, three road, maps you're supposed to go down. One of higher education, one of employment, and one is supposed to, and the other last one is supposed to be about starting your own company.
Yeah, I did do that boost the business thing. I forgot about
And
that.
they don't really push that last one about starting your own company. And I didn't go to Boots to Business until 3.5 years out of the military. And I went through the SBA Boot to Business and I went through their revenue program last year while I was in my master's program.
You're
So,
welcome for punishment.
yes. Right before I started Founders through FI, I went through the SBA Boots to Revenue. And it was a great program. A lot of these things I did actually helped me with grad school, and I already had homework assignments done. But it was intense and enough that you get to learn, but you get to see it. It's a lot, again, like I said, it's a lot of the same people over the same style of businesses. It's not a very unique experience sometimes if you're looking at a tech or if you're looking at a healthcare or med tech startup like myself.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle gets a lot of criticism. However, I mean, I'd much rather be here than like, you know, Bismarck, North Dakota
Absolutely.
or, you know, Raleigh, Kansas, you know. I mean, it's, you know, if you have a tech startup, if you want to start a business, Seattle is one of the better places to be at, despite all the stuff, you know, we criticize about it, which, I mean, criticism is good. I think, you only get better if you criticize things.
You have to criticize it. You have to keep pushing the envelope. We have an amazing ecosystem here that can get better. It has been better and it will get better. But if you don't identify or point out the gaps and point out where the challenges and what people need, then it's never going to get better. You just can't sit on your laurels and like, cool, we're good to go. We're like number 9 in the world, which we're not right now. Some reports we have like number 11. You can't sit here and say, all right, we're good at number 11. Let's just sit there. No, let's continue innovating, integrating innovation and keep iterating to make us better.
Yeah, we can definitely get better. So let's talk about military nonprofits. You've worked for a couple in the past. One being vetted. Now they started in Austin and they're no longer in business, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And what did they do?
So Vetted was taking transitioning military high performers. Basically, we were partnered with top MBA schools around the nation. Wharton, Kellogg, Booth, even here at University of Washington, we go to Foster. And basically we would, it started there in Austin. So it was at the, McCombs Business School. We were partnered with Mays, which is out of, UT and then Texas A&M. And the mission was to be able to help veterans or who are transitioning out to either go into corporate America or help them transition to start their own company.
So there's another a nonprofit out of, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's San Diego. They focus on helping special forces people get executive jobs. So it's kind of the
Okay.
same. I can't think of, and they're actually really, really good. And they're like pretty well known, but I can't think of the name of it. They're out of San
Yeah.
Diego.
So I know like the founder of Vetted, as it closed its doors after I left, they moved on to basically going into employment services
Mhm.
and helping, predominantly like, Navy SEALs and
Yeah.
Delta from the Army, the Special Forces community, get into employment jobs. And I mean, there's a niche for that, and
Mhm.
that's what's needed. There was a niche for Vetted to exist. Sometimes business models don't work, sometimes things just don't work, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You move on, you learn, and you grow from it.
And you think, I mean, people would talk about nonprofit. I mean, to me, nonprofit and not for profit is just the same, right? The text a little bit different. You still got to raise money for both,
Yeah.
And I think it's even harder for a nonprofit because at least our startup, you can, lie to a person, say, hey, I'm gonna give you 10% equity in the company, all this kind of stuff. You'd be a billionaire.
Yeah.
Can't do it on a nonprofit. You
No.
gotta sell the
I
mission,
mean,
make the world a better place, all that kind of stuff, right?
a nonprofit is a corporation, and I think that's a major challenge and issue in our community still, that we think, oh, nonprofits are not a company. No, they're still a company. You should
Board of
still be
directors,
paying the
CEOs.
people what they are, do. You should be paying them great salaries, and you should be hiring. You don't underpay nonprofits like we do right now. I do remember, as I moved from Seattle, driving on the road to Austin. And it was my first experience of like how to fundraise and getting a call from the founder and be like, hey, by the time you get here, you might run out of money. And it was just like the sinking feeling like crap, like how do you raise funds? And it's something I was never taught. And it was very challenging and hard, when you're going to people and saying, hey, you pledged this amount of money. Can you please, when are you going to give it to us? Like we need it now. And then how do you go out and find more money? How do you talk to corporations for, not just grants, but just, corporate donations and sponsorship.
And knowing that, just like you're a startup, you're probably emailing some investors. They're probably getting hundreds of emails and cold calls.
Oh,
These people you fundraise from, like I can imagine the number of calls and emails USA gets, or
oh yeah.
Boeing gets, or Microsoft gets, right?
Yeah. I mean,
all
USA
these, all kind of, especially veteran related ones from USA.
yes, they got emails from me personally, for both nonprofits that I worked at. And so, yeah, and it's, you go back to like what you're comfortable and, and sometimes you have to stop that and like take a, tactical pause and say, cool, let me figure out what's next and who else can I go to. We had a great spreadsheet at one time that was like, our all the list of companies we knew, people we knew there, and say, all right, if this is what we're going to go after for corporate sponsorships, then we started dividing it out. So we actually had a plan versus let me just throw a dart at the board and hit the companies I may or may not know.
Cool. So let's talk about something else. And people might find this unpopular. I'm going to give my personal opinion. In my opinion, there are too many nonprofits trying to help out veterans, right? There's just so many. It's some insane number, like 44,000,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And like example, like here at Fort Lewis, down at Fort Lewis, or don't base Lewis McCord. There's like 3 or 4 nonprofits to help veterans fish, right? Now, remember, one is like deep sea fishing and one's river fishing. It's all 4 kind of different, but do you really need 4 fishing nonprofits, right? And there are so many nonprofits, and are they really, are the people in charge really helping out veterans? Or are they like in it for themselves, tax breaks? Like, for example, there was a nonprofit in Texas. I can't remember the name of it. Well, actually, I do. I don't want to say it. And their thing was they will go to different military bases instead of resume reviews, right? Well, I found after the fact, they would go to different towns. I came into Seattle, Fort Lewis. They convinced all the people in the side of human resource management in Seattle to volunteer the time to do the resume stuff for free, right? So they're taking money from somewhere, not paying anything, and just making big bucks, right? And like, I don't know, I think it's a problem, right?
Yeah. There's always, 2 sides to the coin. I think there is a need, and there's also like, it's unmet need, is like I'm saying. Having over 42,000 nonprofits supporting veterans.
And those are the ones that are like, actually did the right thing and did
Yes,
LLCs and stuff.
That's just, it's convolutes, and it overwhelms. And if you can go on Facebook, you can go on all social media, and you can just hashtag veterans and look it up, or veterans transition. And you'll see all these veterans asking, where do I go? What do I do? Or they'll always, it's not about complaining, but they always make the point of like, there's too many, like we're overwhelmed. And I think the problem with that is nonprofits don't merge. And this is something I pushed tremendously as I was running Vet and as I was working at Minority Veterans of America. Like, how do we acquire other nonprofits, or how do we merge with other nonprofits to take on the same mission statements? There's only a certain amount of resources available. It's finite. There's only so much money available. If you keep spreading all this money across 42,000 nonprofits, truly, how much of an impact are you really making if you only hit ones or twos here and there versus, hey, let's go ahead and take our ego away sometimes, or let's go ahead and take what we know is best for a community, come together, merge, acquire nonprofits, build a collaboration, build a consortium of, nonprofits, and actually make a bigger impact. And I hope, sooner or later that starts happening in our community.
So how much is that caused by people starting nonprofits having too much ego, not being humble? Like, I'm gonna start this because I'm the only one who can fix this problem. And well, maybe you are, but odds are maybe you're not.
I mean, percentage wise, I don't really know, but like I would say that most people I've met, it's honest conversation. People that usually come to me like, hey, I saw you, you used to run a nonprofit, you worked at other ones, you do a lot in that space. Like, I want to start a nonprofit. And the first question I always ask them is like, why? Why do you want to start another nonprofit? Is there another one out there that you can support or join or try to run or be a board member or like financially? There's different ways of supporting that you can then get your mission across, or you can pay or raise funds for them to have a new program. If you're only starting one program and there's a nonprofit that's very similar to what you're already doing, then why not just go to a nonprofit and say, hey, I want to work for y'all and I'll help raise the funds to get this program off the ground. And then it's already underneath another nonprofit and you don't have to go through all the headaches.
If nothing else, work for another nonprofit, learn how to do it, and then start your own nonprofit.
Yes. Yeah, I think when we come out of the military, we are, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. We're ready to solve more problems in the world. We're leaving. And some of us are upset. Some of us are happy. But like, it's that point of like, I'm leaving the military and now I have to have a next mission. And you hear it a lot. Like, what is my next mission? Sometimes your next mission can just be to volunteer and help other people in a different capacity. You don't always have to be in charge. As leaders, sometimes we have to sit back and learn first and then, take the next step to see how we can become better leaders.
So, Robert, let's go back to you being a glutton for punishment. Talk about your master's in entrepreneurship in UW. So first question is, I think some people will say, isn't that counterintuitive to go to school for entrepreneurship? So you like go out there and do, learn and fail. Yeah. Why do the entrepreneurship thing in school?
Yeah. So when COVID hit last year, I got sick, don't know 100% if it's COVID or not, regardless, a month and a half of being sick. I finished a contract, another nonprofit, and I had jobs, lined, applications in the system with King County, city of Seattle, and everything got frozen in March. And I was sick from, basically through March, beginning of March to mid-April. And when you can't get hired, you can't get hired. And it happened. It happened to a lot of people, millions of Americans. So the challenge that I sat there and talked to my wife about was like, hey, we can live off some savings for a couple of months, hopefully find a job. But I decided, you know what? I still have my GI Bill. Let me pivot. Let me go back to school for another master's. It's going to help us with, housing allowance and give me a year to actually get a company off the ground. As well as, I've done other programs and been involved in it. It was really that it gave me that space to focus just on the company and actually learn and make the connections because of, I didn't expect us not to be in person, expect us to, not be online, but be in person. And so I made some other challenges, but I did it for so many different reasons around, networking to having that tactical pause for myself for a year.
And it's a year program? It's a year
program. It's lockstep. You go 4 quarters. The classes are chosen. I'm actually writing a use case of how I use my time at UW to like maximize for my company. One example is at one time I had 28 students working with my company across 7 different departments and 3 campuses of the University of Washington, which is unheard of.
I have to imagine a possibility of people working from UW had to open up tremendously for you.
Yeah, and these were all students in different capstone projects from, mechanical engineering to the human centered design and engineer program, biomedical regulatory affairs, master's program. So it was what you normally would have at a company that is been developed for a couple of years out, that you have a full team, of almost 30 employees. And that's what I was able to build in the year while I was there at school.
How many people were in the program with you?
In our program, we started, I think, about 29 or 30. We finished with 28. One, left. I completely respect that decision of when you're not in person, there's a certain amount of, what's lost to a program and recognize like it was COVID and we all had to adapt to it, so they left. And I really respect that person for actually making the decision to do that. So 28 of us ended up graduating.
And what's the stereotypical still like someone just got a bachelor's degree, someone had
That
3 or
was
4 startups and
yeah,
failed, or what's
that was a mixed bag, and I think, like, when I did my executive master of public administration, like, there's a requirement. You had to, be 7 years, 7 to 10 years was the average. I think 7 years was the minimum. You had to have experience in the, workforce. There was no, minimum. Like, there were people who came straight out of their undergrad into the program. There were some like myself who, already served for, like, 20 years and, worked outside, and some just right in the middle. We predominantly had, I think, probably around early stage mostly.
Mhm.
There's maybe, I don't know, about, 10 of us who have been, either in the workforce or doing things, 10, 15. So about half the, most, were early stage, just coming out of school or didn't have much experience, less, 5,
So
10
I had a
years.
niece that graduated from UW a few years ago. She had a minor in entrepreneurship, and they had actually started a company like the last semester. Did y'all have to start companies also, or how did that work?
So the point of the program, hopefully is that you're coming in to start a company if you haven't already started one. Again, very unique experience in year because of COVID, and I'm going to use that loosely to a certain extent. But and again, my opinion on this, not everybody started the company like as users expected, and some left there without ideas. But the point was, hopefully to help them get a company off the ground if they're ready to, or to go, to corporate America as an entrepreneur, learning that, or like going back, and some already had jobs and they were just doing this on the side at the same time, trying to run their own company.
You might not know this, but do you happen to know like what kind of companies have come out of this program? Like,
Yeah, that's another mixed bag. Like last year's companies even had one like called 2050. I'm so sorry if I miss. I know it's 2050, but like there's a protein shake company. Apologize for messing up the rest of your name. I probably get killed for that later. Then things like that. You had people like Ryan Yusuf, who was from ApnoMed, had a medical device for helping with snoring. This year, had companies like Outweigh, a good friend of mine, who basically started trying to help with land managers, connect them to users of the land to learn where other trails and hiking locations are. So we had everything from tech to someone having, a company that's sold used goods or go into storage units and taking things out of that, to someone who sold birds' nests. In Indonesia, it's a big thing that you drink a bird's nest, like the way to dilute it and take the solvent. Phenomenal. I'd never even heard of it. I love Catherine. She worked with my company a lot over the last year. So I can't wait to go to Indonesia and actually try bird's nest. So yeah.
like an actual bird nest?
Yeah, like they take the bird's nest. I'm gonna mess up the whole process, of course, but basically being able to take a solvent from it or dilute, when they the whole mixture. I would just go Google it, look at the bird's nest and see like how it is like a protein or it's like a healthy drink that they create there. And it's a big thing there. But here in the United States, we're like, oh, what's a bird's nest? And it was interesting. So we did have a lot of international students, did marketing as well as, creative design to, myself, like, did healthcare, one amazing company. Really, truly supported them, happy, and I hope they do get going where they're at. Is out of Ghana. They use a company named Health Express. Not sure if they're going to change it or not, but basically they're making mobile units that help mobile healthcare units out of use connexes. The big, 48-foot connex trailers, and basically making those mobile healthcare units all throughout Ghana.
Yeah, one thing I don't people realize, especially in the Seattle area, what a entrepreneurial hub UW is, right?
Oh yes,
Because not the Microsoft, the master's program in entrepreneurship,
yeah,
Techstars runs a program out of there, Commercial Labs does a real big XR, VR, program there,
yeah. Bunker Labs launched out
out
of
of
there,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
out of there years back when oh crap,
Johannes and Jake.
Johannes and
Yeah.
him. I'm trying to think of. I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but CEO of Starbucks, came and spoke. Schultz came and spoke and launched it there. But yeah, it, University of Washington is a huge hub. Everything from the Foster School of having the undergrad, like minors in entrepreneurship. There's a certificate in entrepreneurship. They have an amazing program called Engineering and Health Innovation. that tries to, again, it may another silo, another program I belong to, that trying to connect it to the business school, that there are students who are solving health problems, but they're mechanical engineer students. So, connecting them, with the right business students is key. Now it'll grow and it'll get better, but there's so much that comes out of that school that we sometimes don't realize.
So let's talk about this. So there's a saying, ABC always be closing. I have another saying, ABR always be recruiting, right? Especially talk about you got to find people to come on board, right? Because like
Oh yeah.
first, you can't pay them anything, so usually they're gonna leave it there for 6 months. Another challenge to always say, like a lot of startup founders, they think they'll be Mark Zuckerberg in 6 months. A lot of startup employees think they're gonna be Mark Zuckerberg 6 months, also, right? Which is disconnect. So, and you've had success bringing people on to work for you, right? Can you
Yeah.
talk about how you been able to do that?
So majority of the success, it's either been volunteers or as a startup going to University of Washington, applying these capstone projects where like we're supporting that school within the university. They give us a team of students. We monitor them. We give them a project they're going to work on. And that's how I was able to develop, a team of 28 students at one time. We just brought on our first employee. Besides myself as our like chief marketing officer. I met him through a business plan practicum class. For 6 months, we went through the class, and then we went to a couple competitions with each other. So it was a right fit and meld. But I will tell you, this time last year, I was struggling to find people. I was like going to every networking event online, trying to use Startup Tree, trying to use LinkedIn, everything. And then I just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to stop. And usually that's what happens. When you stop looking, things show up.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to tell people like, there's great programs out there or apps that can help you find a technical founder or whatever. But sometimes just take a pause and
And be
again,
patient,
and be
right?
patient. Like it will come. And I don't want to always use like build and it will come phrase. But for me, success piece and what also helped was I had an amazing assignment, and it was called my user manual. There's an article on LinkedIn called the user manual, and you get to write how does your employees, work with you, and it's your user manual. So I published this as an assignment. I've given it to all my volunteers, all my interns, to my first employee, and said, "This is how you work with me. This is how you get my attention. If you need certain things, if you need me to read your email, what do you put in brackets in front of it? If you need a meeting with me, or if it's really important, because our time is finite. Like we're so busy." So knowing how to work with us. And then I also published our company culture like right away early on. And I gave him. And so your ABCs or ABR for me, my ABCs are always be curious,
Mhm.
like always know what's available to you. Keep learning. Don't sit down and like, stop and be stagnant. Use the beginner's mind, Shoshin, of like understanding of what this might be the second or third or 100th time I've done this, but let me approach this. I've never done this before, and continue being curious and childlike.
Yeah, people don't realize the importance of having your values and culture as soon as you can, right? Because
Yeah.
like, do you really want to wait till you have employee number 10 and do your value? Because by then the other 9 people have said it for you, right?
Yeah. And the culture it will change and shift over time. You can read all the articles out there. You can learn from other people's mistakes, but you won't learn until you do it on your own. You won't know until the time to change your culture is the time it happens. You can kind of hopefully like you can be prepared for it, but like you're absolutely right. I wanted to set the culture right away as employees were coming in, as volunteers coming on, because um, the other challenge for them was if when people ask, what do you do for sound sustainability? If they can't understand how to say what my strategic narrative is or my mission is, it's not doing us any good in the point of like having, someone be able to talk. Like they're our best spokesperson at the same time for us.
Yeah, I think it's good to realize how your company operates too, or especially your founder, right? Because like for me, if I would have worked someone and I didn't know they only talk on the phone, like, okay, I fucked up because I'm not talking to you on the phone, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
communicate that way, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I even showed like in my user manual, it was anything from like, how do you get my attention in emails to how do you, ask for a meeting with me to like, what is important to me. And then that then link back to my values as a company. And again, one of my values is family. And I always will tell people relationships matter to me for my ethnic background, as well as my culture. And so then family is important. And I'm like, hey, if you need to take time off for family, you take off for family. Like, and you know this, we spent so much time in the military away from families. I didn't realize how important they were until later, until almost too late sometimes.
Yeah, my thing, even when I was in the military, like if someone worked for me in the military now and they had like, hey, my son has a base work game from 2 to 4. Well, you better fucking be there. Harikama, that project you have doing 8 in the morning, is still doing 8 in the morning, right?
Yeah, you still hold their feet to the fire. You still hold them responsible to get things done. And I think that then is that. So when everybody always wants to talk about this work-life balance, I mean, to me, there is no work-life balance because there's just life. Like we separate or silo out like my business side of my life and my personal life. But it's so blended even now after COVID. It's even more blended as we sit here and go from meeting to meeting, sitting at our home desk, and we're actually working longer hours.
We are. People forget about that, right? Yeah. You're actually working longer hours.
You're working longer hours because you're going from meeting to meeting versus, hey, I got a meeting downtown. Let me go get on the bus or the train. I'm taking a 30-minute break now, like to do stuff off my phone or listen to music, listen to my podcast, and educate myself on different things. Get to the meeting and then go there. Versus, okay, I just got off one meeting. I got a meeting in another minute and no break in between.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I talk about this on other podcasts. Like when people said I want to do remote work, they didn't say what they said. What they said was I want to go home and work. They didn't say I want to go home and work and babysit my kids, take my parents back and forth.
Absolutely.
Do all this, worry about COVID. Yep. So this remote work we did was not really remote work, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, some companies are great about the remote work policy. Like, okay, we're going to send you home at your home, like a desk or computers, or set you up with like parts that you need for your office, like you would have at the regular office. Others didn't do that, and some of us didn't identify the challenge of saying, hey, as a leader or as a founder, when you're at home working, you need to take these breaks. You need to do this, or giving, a certain day off of the week is saying, cool, hey, this weekend, because everybody's working so much, let's just take a 3-day, just take a pause and, take another day off, do whatever you want. And then I think a lot of people do want to still continue working at home because they feel, they got a lot, they can get a lot done. They can focus on it, have to drive in and out of, cities where they live. But there's some of us who we're burnt out from working at home too. But I don't think we hear a lot about those who are sharing that story, that side of it, of how burnt out we are because we've been working from home. We get up, we take care of our kids, we're working. We take care of our kids, we're working. Got to make dinner, we go right back to work. Like, when does it stop? So it's completely blended in.
Having said that, there was some hilarious things coming out of remote work, right? All the Zoom stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, the two examples I have, the one where the lawyer's in Texas and somehow he put a cat filter on him.
I remember that when I watched that.
That's hilarious.
That was hilarious.
And the other one was this guy. He was in a Zoom call, and like he's facing this way, and on the side you see his 2 kids, like 4 to 2 years old.
Yep.
They start making a cake. They bring like flour, sugar, and he's there like, and you can see him like, okay,
what do I do?
This is important. They're destroying my house. What do I do? And you just see the look of like, oh my God, on his face, right?
Yeah, I was in the middle of a competition and like giving my presentation, and like my cat and all this stuff in the background, and it's not the same as the kids or whatever. But it's just going crazy and just meowing and like jumping everywhere. Just interrupting it, and I just straight face like they did, just keep going with it. But sometimes like there's other times I would just recognize, say, hey, we're at home, life happens. You need to just stop and then go to recognize that. But yeah, I remember the one, I think it was on CNN or something, like they're getting a report and the children came running in.
I remember that one.
And I think it was like
the wife or something. When nanny comes.
Yeah. And like just like fell over trying to get the kids out, and I'm like, man, it's
on national TV.
Yes, yep. I mean, it's just part of like our life now, and I think it's amazing. We get to see inside of different people's homes. We get to understand who they are from a different personal level. Like walls are coming down and understanding each other a lot better.
Yeah, too. Like there's a meme out recently where like somebody said, I start Zoom meeting 0.01 seconds later, mom starts vacuum, dog starts barking at cat. Father crashes the car, trash man comes,
Yes, I mean, that's again the things that you don't get to see, because when you're at office, like it's guarded around, all the life things aren't happening. But if we're going to work from home, like that's got to be an expectation. Like I think it's there finally moving forward. But we also have to have expectation that we shouldn't require or expect our employees, our team members, to be sitting on a computer at 7:30 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. Like, they have a lifestyle.
Just in case you came and send them an email.
Or like every time something dings and if they don't answer right away, that's another like big bigger pet peeve of mine now too. And I kind of established that saying, hey, like anything after 6 p.m., if you email me, I'm not going to answer it. Like unless it's an emergency, unless it's my, CMO or someone I have to talk to, an advisory, I'm not answering it because like, this is my time. I have to put up guardrails and say, I have to protect my life too, and my own, mental state and my own health. And I think sometimes that, we forget that we have to put those up at our own workplaces and say, this is where it stops. And as founders, as CEOs, like you have to start instituting that own policy in your company. That's part of your culture. And if you don't, and it's just going to be a working to death culture, then you see what happens.
Yeah, I pretty much suck at that, right? I'm all the time. When I do tell my people, I tell them, hey, make sure you set your notifications, right?
Yeah.
And I tell them, what time do you want me to contact you? I do my best to do that, right? But I tell them to set up your notifications, right?
Yeah, like,
and one thing too, I'll tell them like if I'm talking about my my phone call thing, I'll tell them if I ever call you, it's because I'm gonna tell you we just paid $25 million.
Yep.
Or something like either something really great or something really bad has happened, right?
Well, and the thing, like last night I was about to send another email out, and the first thing I said is like, do I really need to send this email, or can I wait till tomorrow, or can I wait till Friday to or tomorrow afternoon to tell the person on the call? And I was like, what? I can wait till tomorrow afternoon. Like they don't need to know like this information right now at 9:00 at night. Is it going to make a difference? I've already sent them 2 emails earlier today on different things. I can just wait till tomorrow afternoon to tell them.
And like I said, it also depends what their role is in the company too.
Yes.
If it's an intern, you probably don't need to send them at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
If you're CMO and you're doing a marketing,
it's about to happen. Absolutely.
Some kind of marketing program, like you're about to launch a product hunt tomorrow morning.
Yeah. That's again, all mission, or as a military love to say, it's all Met TC, it's mission dependent,
Yeah.
But like, for me, yeah, I may say that I have this guardrails up. I do work in the evening times, like, and that's it's expected. But I do take that guardrail time and say, all right, this is for my wife. We're having dinner together. Family time's important. Okay, she goes to bed before I do. Cool. I can go get another hour of work in or something, and it's my time to get a little extra stuff done.
And I think that will come like in the military. We're good, like know what our like family members do. I think it's good to know what people do. Like suppose you do some kind of good big launch or something, and your employee tells you, hey, my like something bad happens, right? Like their spouse leaves them, or maybe, the daycare quit, okay, maybe I don't need to reach out to them in person the next couple of days, right? Give them the space, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You just, you got to know your employees, your team members. You got to like understand like, part of their lives, if they're open to, expressing and sharing it. But you also have to like, build those relationships, and know what's going on. Some of the things I do every Monday morning for one of our team meetings with our 3 interns, even on Fridays as we close out, I'll ask them, what are you doing this weekend? And I got a lot of that from the military, like asking my, soldiers underneath me, saying, hey, what are y'all doing this weekend? Just want to, like know about your life a little bit more. And I got to learn like, this is what's going on. And a lot of times this conversation will lead to something else. And I'm like, crap, I didn't know about that. Oh, we have something else coming up in like a week or two that I need to move around because they're going to have something coming up that's really important to them personally, or like, significantly for their life. So like I need to, adjust what we're going to do. So I love hearing about how their weekend went. And I love sharing about my weekend, the things that I'm doing with my wife, things I'm doing with my family here and enjoying like the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. People don't realize like, military, how involved you get with people's family, right? Like I tell a story all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like I'll never forget, I was commander in Italy and I got a call telling me that one of my soldiers' teenage son got a DUI on the Town County, right? I don't think if you work for Microsoft or Boeing, if your employee's teenage son gets a DUI, you're going to get called, right?
Calling you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I used to check about it, like my wife, other people, like, we were in a certain sense, we're their mom and their dads at the same time as leaders. We're there to help them grow them, mature them, and educate them, as well as make sure, if they, cross the line, they receive the right amount of punishment. They see the right amount of, training and other things to kind of, change their behaviors and decision patterns. But like, it's fascinating when I tell people, man, I used to get a call at, 1 a.m. I had to go to the gate because one of my soldiers came back, to the gate, had a drink or two too many and it shouldn't be driving, stopped, was helped. We come in, get them, or just mental health things that happen in the middle of the night, or just breakups. I used to tell people like, we'd have to go check people's apartments to make sure that they keep it clean.
Yeah.
And if they are paying their bills on time, if they didn't pay their bills, like we get nasty grams from.
I used to hate that. Like, like somewhere to go bounce a check somewhere, they were contacting me like, I'm not going to give you the money.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's
But then business
just,
new to call the military, right?
yes. It's just such a different dynamic than when you come out. And a lot of that has carried over for me of like the relationship piece and checking in and what do
Yeah,
you need?
relationships are important.
And, but yeah, I'm not going to be like, hey, did you pay your bills this weekend? Like when you got your money from the company? No, that's now out of my lane. That's out of my
Thank
control.
God, right?
Yes. Or like, oh, you got a speeding ticket. Okay. Or you got arrested outside of the military. We'll see. Wait to see what happens to the civilian side before we punish you on the military side. Like none of that I have to worry about anymore. And I don't have to worry about my phone unless it's something really emergency, like ringing at 2 a.m. or, our staff duty, being up like for 24 hours straight because we're waiting,
Like
for
people
something to
sometimes ask,
cross.
like, you miss it? And like, yeah, I do
I do.
sometimes. Then I remember staff duty. I remember CQ. I'm like, no, I do not miss that crap.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Babysit
yeah,
a building just because.
I have to go in on the weekend to check, the barracks because you got to make sure they clean the room because it's not their room. It belongs to the government. And they got to maintain it and take care of it. Like, oh man, just, yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
it's you can go on and on for that. It was fun, but you're right. I do miss it at times. There's times like, man, can I put my uniform back on? Who knows? Maybe one day we'll have to see.
No. My wife asked me one time, what do you do if they call you back? I said, I'm going to go smoke some ganja and put a tattoo on my neck.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hard thing I try to explain to people too. Then it's like, hey, as a commission officer, my commission's still there.
Yeah, it's
Like
there.
it's
Yeah.
there
We're
for life.
not, people don't realize we're not really retired.
Yeah.
They're just
Yep.
paying us not to go into work.
Exactly.
Cause yeah, like I joke around, they call me back in. Our country is a bad state.
Yes. Then they call me back in, especially like, from, medical injuries, myself, I've experienced like, I'll go back in. It would be to teach, it would be to educate that next front line that's going out there and my job skill. It wouldn't be for me to be on the front line. It just wouldn't happen. I'm not, physically fit for doing that. And that's okay. But, I recognize like, that's why I didn't want to I didn't want to resign my commission because I wanted to maintain it. I maintained my title. I maintained, that importance piece of like what my career history looked like. And then I, able to be there if I'm ever need to be called back to the country.
So Robert, changing subjects.
Yeah.
What is a social entrepreneur? What does that even mean? Is that like a May award, make me feel good about themselves, or what is
Sometimes it is. I'm just being honest. And again, my opinion. I think for me, a social entrepreneur is, an entrepreneur who's improving a social impact of the world. And that's very loosely of a definition. And, I'm not going to sit here and try to say exactly what it is. Be honest, I don't even know 100% the definition out there. I know what it means for me. And it is being an entrepreneur that I am making an impact on society from a different standpoint of that the bottom line is making all the money in the world for me. And that's, and a lot of entrepreneurs are social entrepreneurs. They just don't call themselves that.
Who decides if you make an impact? You do, or some outside organization decides that?
Well, if it's an outside organization, then that's like where you try to go get your B certification from, then someone certifies you. But if someone who really honestly decides that is your customers. It's the society decides that. Are you really making a social impact? You can write all the reports up all day long, but like, are you really making an impact unless society's saying it, or unless your customers who you're impacting are saying, yes, you are actually making an impact?
And you're a company, you're a B certified social corporation.
We are not. We are a C corp. Is something of interest to me. It is something.
So what is a B certified corp then?
So B corp, a benefits corporation. It depends where you're at. Some places, some states are different. Here in Washington, they have a special purpose corporation. So basically saying that everything you do for your mission, not every dollar has like it's all about how much money like you spend toward outside things toward your mission versus how much money is like going back into the shareholders and to your founders, the equity piece, the stock options. That's for the legal side of it, one of the biggest differences in understanding of how can you reinvest your end of year extra revenue and everything. So B Corp, there is an organization that does certify them. You pay for it. It is a very lengthy process to go through, and it can be a challenge sometimes. But there are ways of saying that you can be a social entrepreneur or that you have a social impact mission as a company without being a B Corp, that you can still, set up things like a foundation or that you can say that you are dedicating so much funding a year to go toward certain social impacts. One way we look at it, and we say for our company, is that we support the sustainable developmental goals of the United Nations. There's, yeah, 18, 19 of them, and there's different ones. The ones that I come straight to mind, I always say that we are supportive of is reducing inequalities. And one of the inequalities is hearing health around the world, just not just here in the US, but around the world. That's why our mission is to improve the hearing health of the world. Another one is around pay inequalities. Like, how do we make sure we pay people, the right amount, and, not pay someone of color less money, or a woman less money, as, has historically been done. And how do we raise to make sure that we're improving equities across the company? Because as we do it, others will see it, and it kind of just spreads. So.
And it's a pretty hard process to get be certified, right?
I haven't really looked so much like in the full process, but as I've talked with other companies that have looked at it, have done it, it can be a lengthy piece of it. You have to meet certain gates, milestones over time to make sure that you meet what it is. But again, there's just different ways. Like, you don't have to be a B Corp here in Washington. You just register as a special purpose corporation, and you're basically a social impact company.
Is there like any business benefit to doing this?
Yeah, there are, one, you get to be certified on it. So a lot of people may like want to only do business with B certified companies. So a lot of that happens. It's a marketing tool as well for customers to know this is who you are and what you do. A lot of us, as consumers are, certain like-minded, want to improve the world, then they're going to go to companies to shop from them versus going to companies they feel are like damaging the world. So those are some of the benefits for tax purposes. I don't want to speak so much to it, but there are certain tax purposes to it. I'm not a CPA, so I'll talk to your CPA if it's worth doing it. But there are some tax purposes for it, because again, you're able to adjust your end of year revenue, what you're coming in versus it going all the stocks and paying out an equity, and then what you're able to reinvest either back into the company or invest into your social impact.
Is this something you plan on doing with your company eventually?
I've looked, originally thought about, being a B cert. I have to look more and decide, like, is it the right fit for us? Like, we can be, again, a social impact company without being B certified. I'm not going to say no, we will never do it. But it's a decision that has to come as you advance your company and find the right strategic time to make sure that, yeah, now it's time to do it. Again, I can support sustainable development goals and publish that, and then show how we're trying to reduce carbon footprint. I think about Allbirds, like how they're trying to go to net zero in a couple of years, like how much they're doing now. That's literally, being a social impact company.
Can you talk about emotional intelligence? The why I see like so many people lack emotional intelligence.
Well, they lack it or they like it?
Lack it.
Oh, yeah. I think the lack thereof is it's a proximity piece. And I speak about this a lot in my philanthropy, about being proximate to different communities, so you get to learn about it. So if you're a person that, doesn't know anything about emotional intelligence, and none of your friends and none of the people you associate with, and it's something that's not of interest to you, it's just like anything else. Like, if you're a person who doesn't play basketball or play any sports, like, you're not proximate to it. So I think that is a big piece to it. I mean, it's been around for a minute. Daniel Goleman has been like, the father of it, and it's been around for years. And I think another part is it's taught in higher education. Not everybody has opportunity to go to higher education or go to the right colleges and have the right programs to actually teach it. So there's that lack piece of it. It's something that could be taught in our, public education a lot more, and making sure that people, understand it. But at the end of the day, you can be taught it, but if you don't practice it, every day, it's just like a muscle. If you don't exercise it, you lose it. And I think a lot of people just don't exercise it. They may have read about it, know about it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be EI, and, I'm going to improve it. And they don't continue reading to improve it for themselves.
So, Robert, what are your 4 agreements?
So yeah, there's an amazing book called The 4 Agreements. Actually, a follow-on called The 5th Agreement. But I continue, subscribe to that. You look on my LinkedIn, I've, written it out. So, the first one is, you be impeccable with your word. basically meaning whatever you say, like stand to what your word says. Like your word is your bond, as like the old saying goes. Not many, like the only thing many of us have is our word. And so much of it, it gets lost. So be impeccable with your words, speak the truth, speak your truth, is the first one. The second one being, I might get the second and third one out of order. It doesn't matter. Don't take things personally. There's so much that we do that, and it happens in so many relationships. Like you think about, you're dating somebody, they haven't texted you back. Like, oh my gosh, it must be me. Well, don't take things personally. Or like if you didn't get a job or you didn't get a contract, you didn't get a grant, you didn't get the promotion, and you take these things personally because you're beating yourself up about it. There may be something you just don't know.
There's so many variables going on. You have no idea.
So like trying to understand that you shouldn't take things personally. And it kind of goes along with the third one, which is don't make assumptions. Like we make so many assumptions, about like what's happening in the world. And the way not to make assumptions is to actually ask clarifying questions. Just ask, like, if you didn't get a promotion, why did not I get the promotion? And it's not about being rude to, your boss or anything, or why didn't I get the grant if they're able to help, or why didn't I get the contract? Just ask the clarifying question. What can I have done better? Instead of making the assumption that you should improve X, Y, or Z, or that you suck at something. Most of the times it's not even that case. It's just, again, like you said, it's different variables. And the last one is to do your best at all three.
Okay.
So
tie them all together.
Tie them all together. Try to practice all three at the same time. And a lot of times we may only be able to practice one or two at a time, or maybe just one. But how do you make sure you bring all three together and actually approach that every time?
You're talking about not taking personal. Like a lot of people, they apply for a job, they get interviewed. Like the one, first of all, like people don't realize there's like 250 applications each job.
Yeah.
So if you just got a phone interview and you made it like top 5 interviews in person, you doing something right?
Absolutely. I mean, like I remember, like it's someone who helped other people get jobs all the time. As like, and again, every agency is different. Like King County, like using this website, governments.com for applying for jobs, and like how their whole process was totally different. Just submitting your resume, and I was not getting, interviews at all. So I was taking it personally because. And then I went and asked a clarifying question, and someone said, "Hey, you need to fill out the whole profile that matches your resume," just kind of like how USA Jobs does. But nowhere on there says that. Like anytime you go to like, Indeed or somewhere, who fills all that out? Like you just like, cool, whatever. I'm just gonna put my resumes on here. But for government jobs, for the county, for city, for municipalities, before they ever see your resume, they read the whole profile and everything's in there. So then if there's nothing in there, they just skip right over you. But if I never asked that clarifying question after not getting interviews, and that instead of taking it personally, I would have never known that, and I would never be able to fix the issue.
And other people don't realize too, like your top 5 years interviews, you don't get the job, and they take it personal, right? What I do wrong? Well, maybe the other person was more qualified than you, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe the other person would just had a better qualification, better resume, better interview. He just outperformed you,
Yeah, and I always tell people it's timing and luck. Like, for me, my career didn't end the way I wanted it to, and it was about timing, it was about luck, and I recognize that. So you can sit and beat yourself up over it, but why? Like, why bring that extra anguish on yourself? Like, you learn from it, you move to the next one, and you try even harder, and that's like last week I bombed on a pitch here. And we work for VR. I've never frozen ever in my life. There's so many different variables of why I did. But I then wrote an article about it. And I remember, like saying at the end of it, from the movie Rocky Balboa about it, it's not about how hard you get hit, but how hard you hit back and keep going forward. And you have to keep going forward.
Yeah. So I do this job for seminar sometimes for college students and veterans. And I talk about the luck, right? I say 2 examples. One person interview at 9 a.m. They're kind of qualified, not really, they're like a throwaway candidate. But there were even 4 people. All those 4 people have a great weekend, celebrations. They're in a great mood.
Yep.
The person actually gets the questions wrong. They give them the right answers. Everything's hunky-dory. They're fine. They're feeling good about it, right? The next candidate interviews at 2 p.m. He's way more qualified. He or she's way more qualified. I mean, they should give the person his job right. However, same 4 people in the interview, but at 10, one of them found out the mother-in-law's coming to visit, right? So in a bad mood. Other one has an accident. Other one gets yelled by the boss. So 3 of the 4 are in pissed off mood for the interview, right? And completely different dynamic, right?
And even that person who did it at 2 p.m., the interviewers from the company could be just tired. It's after lunch and they're like, I'm just in a bad mood. So then that person set up the bad experience because of, everybody else. And yeah, it's absolutely luck. It's about the timing, and you have to go and strike hard when you can, and strike, and smile, and like hold a positive attitude about it.
Yeah, it's so much luck involved, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So talk about being in the UW Husky 100, because I know that's a really big deal right there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like 20,000 students at UW, I think. So
correct.
So that's a big deal.
And they only select so many of the graduate students. I'm not sure a number off the top of my head. It, and I knew this opportunity was available, and it's something like that, I aspired to. And, it recognizes like Huskies who are, doing things on and off campus. It's not just, okay, how great are you doing your work? Are you making straight A's, at school? But like, what impact are you making in society? And as read my bio, my bio at the end, talk about like, I have a purpose still in society of doing different things. So I was fortunate at the Master Entrepreneurship Program. The person, director who runs that part, was able to like submit my application for it. I had great people who reviewed it and submitted, recommendations for me. And it was challenging because I had to do a video and talk about myself, and that sometimes can be hard. And like, you got 60 seconds to say everything you've done or do, and
so pretty competitive process.
Very competitive process. I think if you go to their website, there's only like maybe 3 or 4 business students on there. I think I'm the only graduate business student, and I don't know what the selection process across, but I also do recognize that a lot of people on the campus either don't apply or don't know about it from like the business schools or from certain schools. It's those programs that do a lot of social impact, like the Evans School, who's a public administration and like all into the field, or, if it's public health, like those, or, schools know really hard about it and push for students to apply to it.
The 3 people I know besides you, they were like out of medical school or something with biochemistry or something, something non-business.
Yep. Yeah, that's goes Husky 100 on the website. You can separate it out by year and look at by programs, and you'll see, I think if I remember correctly, like 3 students for 2021 who were business students out of the hundreds.
So is it like some kind of lifetime alumni organization?
Yeah,
you can like pull back on and use resources from?
Yeah, it's I'm waiting. Like, they're supposed to be following resources. Again, being a COVID year, so many things have changed. And what happens normally, there's a big celebration. Y'all come in, make a big deal of it, which it should be. So like, you do have that resource to fall back on. You do have that, prestige. It's everybody's seen them. Like, sometimes you'll see those best 40 under 40 or 30 to 30 that mean nothing. This is not one of those. This actually has a holding, and I think it has a special holding, mostly probably for like a younger generation. Not someone who's accomplished a lot in their lives.
I can imagine you got to college UW and you get to put top Husky 100 on your resume. I mean, especially in Seattle, that'd be a big deal.
Yes,
people know
I would
it
look
is.
for it. Like, if someone told me they're top 100 and they come out of their program and they were a human-centered design engineer student, or, they were a mechanical engineer. Like, yeah, this person has it going on. Like, they want to make a difference, not just in school, but outside of school. And that's who I look for.
And that's a good point. How you see someone, you don't know the full story, and when you do, like your like perspective changes. Or so we work. There's a lady who works there named Reagan Derrick, right? She's been a couple of months. I've talked to her high and by, whatever, not really much. So after our event on Thursday, I found out that she's in the Washington State National Guard. She's a 92 Fox. So she's like petroleum refueling, and she's an aviation unit. So she's a hot refueling. And I was aviation for 4 years. So I know exactly what hot refueling is. I'm like, oh shit, you're a badass.
Yeah.
Like, so the perspective just changed like immediately, right?
Yeah. There's so many different identities we all hold that we all don't see it.
And look at it, you're like, she's premium property, you never think she's doing the hot refueling. I can see you in the Army maybe, but hot refueling.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I think that's a big.
My view has definitely changed the view.
We don't wear uniforms outside of the military. Like, I wore uniform. I had certain badges on, certain tabs on that like people instantaneously recognize. And like, all right, recognition, and giving street credit for just that before even meeting me. And that's the difference outside. We don't have a uniform on. I think one of the greatest sayings that I probably ever said in my life is like, as I left the military, I never want to have what's on my chest define me as a person.
Yeah. And that's one reason why I didn't want to do a GS-13 job at the military. Like, I want to like do a complete break, right?
Yeah, I think there's that need to go, work back in the GS world, or go back work for government. And there's that don't need to. Like, you find your own niche in your path, but it's sooner or later, like you got to know what else is happening in the world. Right now, I think it was like 9% of the population are veterans, maybe 10%. So like there's a whole nother 90% of the population that you don't know about, that you've never been a part of. So when you leave the military, go back and join it. Like you don't have to be in the same veteran circles as everybody else. Like go find non-veteran friends. If you're on active duty right now, find non-military friends. Like learn, because you're going to come back to that part of society. And it is only going to help your
Everyone comes back
transition.
to it eventually.
Yes. And it's just, and the more you struggle, a lot of it can do on yourself, of like, if you're just stuck in those circles and you're perpetuating the same challenges and complaining about the same things versus, not saying that's what everybody does, versus going out and, all right, I'm going to join like Social Venture Partners Seattle and be a partner, be on the board of Sound Discipline, and like actually meet people who I've never been proximate to in my life, never knew anything about these types of communities. And I'm so much better for it.
So back to Reagan, right? So we're talking, and another word person, Kelsey offered, right? Is that right? And the look on Kelsey's face when Reagan's explained like hot fuel refueling, how the helicopter doesn't stop, the sparks are flying, right? And you see the Kelsey's look on her face like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like,
so much danger in our jobs, and it is amazing when you come out and you're like, yeah, I was in charge, moving $150 million worth of equipment and, over 1,000 people. I'm like, you? I'm like, yeah, like it's just another day at the office that when we start thinking about it.
And by the way, that's my extra duty. That was my real job.
Yeah, I mean, that was like an additional assignment as a battalion, as a logistics officer to a field artillery unit. Like that's not what I got trained for. That's not what I went to school for. But we sit in those additional positions at times, or as a movement officer, like that's not my full-time job, but I'm still responsible as additional duty. And it's just,
And if you feel that, it's just like you feel like your real-time job.
Yeah. And
your career would be ended.
It is mind-boggling when you to a lot of other people are like, wait a minute, like that's what you're responsible for. And like, yeah, like we come out, and that's, that's why most veterans are high performers, because we're held to a different, standard. Like what 21-year-old who comes out of college, who's a commissioned officer, is in charge of millions of dollars worth of equipment at a company? Unheard of.
Like how many 21 lieutenants, 21 out of OCSRC, where's the case to be your commission place in charge of 40 people and all the $1 million, right? 21 years old.
No, nowhere.
Like, if you go to Boeing, you might get charged, you're put in charge of a pin if you're lucky.
Yeah, maybe you have a couple of people work for you, or that's it. But no, it's and that's what sets us apart. And it goes back to that, like, companies who are out there, you're not hiring veterans. Why not? Like, you're missing out on this, amazing, dynamic group that can change your company and change your perspective.
It's a challenge. The story I tell. My first job, I worked in a seafood company in Alaska, right? And I purposely, I don't want to be like A+ checklist, all, take over, right? I purposely, at least I thought I personally slowed down, right? So after 60 days, the guy said, hey, Jason, you're doing a great job, but I need for you to kind of slow down. People say you're making them look bad. I thought to myself, guy, I'm working at 30% capacity right now. Well, do you want me to work day on, day off?
Yeah, I sent an email as I was finishing this master's to my friends and family. Said, thank you for an amazing year. Thank you for all your support. And I listed out maybe like 10 things that I had done. And some of the people responded back who'd never been in the military. It's like, gosh, there's people who never accomplished maybe 3 or 4 of these things their whole life. And like, you did this all in a year. Like, I don't understand how.
And we're like, I don't understand how you don't.
Well, yeah. I'm absolutely right there with you. Like, I've got to slow down. And even my wife's like, sometimes like, if you do slow down, you're probably going to die. But sooner or later I will slow down. But right now I'm not going to.
Yeah, I try to take a break. I went back to crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I took 2 weeks off after grad school, I was like unplugged from everything. But toward the end of that 2 weeks, I was in New Orleans. I was like, all right, I got to get back to work. Like, I'm itching. Like I got a company trying to get off the ground, correctly.
Like, sometimes I complain, I'm doing too much. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Ooh, look, there's a project I can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're natural born problem solvers, or we're trained to be problem solvers. We always want to help other people. We always, like, if a veteran calls, like, we want to drop what we're doing to help them. Or if friends or family do call us, same thing. But yeah, we have to take breaks, and we have to be able to be more focused. Like for me right now, my 2 focuses as CEO, founder, is product development and raising funds.
Mm-hmm. So I want to tie Reagan in, and I say always be recruiting right. Always be recruiting right. So now that I know Reagan is like this, badass babe, so to speak, and hot refueling and stuff, like, man, she can handle hot refueling. She can handle working for a startup, right?
Yeah.
So maybe down the line, I have a slot for her or what she wants to do. She just graduated with a business degree in UW. Maybe down the line, okay, maybe I can reach out to her, right? Because now I know that she can handle it, right? If you handle hot refueling, you probably handle working in a startup.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody can. And that's something I paid attention to, and something I've been really mindful, like we have 3 interns right now. And a big piece was like, they could have gone and intern at a Fortune 100 company, Fortune 500 here in the Seattle area. But they told me they wanted to, one, our mission was important to them. And 2, they wanted to actually see what a startup does and learn. And I was like, that's phenomenal. I wish when I was, 17, 18, 19 years old, almost, for 21, like, hey, I get to learn what a startup does, or hey, I get to be in this type of setting, because you just don't get that all the time, like if ever.
I had no idea what startup was. Like when I left the Army, this guy reached out to me, hey, can we meet about how the Army's help you find a job? I have a startup. My question was, what the blank is a startup? Yeah. I had no clue, right? No concept.
I mean, and yeah, that's, now that was a thing for me. And I left, I was like, and I took a break. And I think you definitely know, I took a break for like a year and a half away from all vet organizations, all things, because I had to find myself. And that's the other part I would say for like those in the military, those out of school, like, the gap year is huge. So I called it my gap year after I left the Army, after I left vetted. I took a whole year off, volunteered, do what I wanted, travel, like focus on my mental and my physical health. And it made all the difference.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, if they can, like usually in the military, take some time off, right?
I didn't.
But too many of us like start working while I'm transitioning to leave.
Yep.
I tell people, everyone's economic situation is different. You can take some time off, right? What most veterans do before they get out, retire, they buy a house, they buy a car, the kids about to go to school, right? And they have to find a job, and they find a job that sucks.
Well, I mean, I even was preaching it all the time. Take your 2 months, take your time off, take 6 months off, and get a job. And I didn't follow my own guidance, my recommendations. I took a couple of weeks off, left the military, went back home, see family, and I just went right back to work, remotely for a nonprofit. And I realized like, later, less than a year later, like, why do I have to do this? Like, I don't have to work right now. Like, I'm in grad school. I can move back to Seattle. I can take a pause for myself and like redefine who I am, and make sure I can come out better than I was. Because like, many of us, including myself, like I faced a lot of demons when I left the military. Like there's a lot of unresolved things that just weren't taken care of. And it was truly impacting my mental and my physical health. So, that year taken off, was what saved my life.
So talk about your goal of being a TEDx speaker.
Yeah. I've helped with other people, either run a TEDx, not at like the, bigger level, but like a local level, been involved helping other people prepare for it. And it's just, and it goes back to like last week, bombing on a pitch. I've been doing public speaking almost all my life out of high school. I did debate, from, what they call experiential speech, get a couple minutes, read over a topic, and then go right in there and give a 5-minute speech about it. So I think for me, like the natural progression is having a TEDx talk, is being able to go out and be able to share with the world, like my own experiences. And that's what I love about a TEDx is it's educational to a point of like what you take from it, or it's comical, to learn things. So for me, I want to express who I am. I want to share to the world what I've done and where I'm going to go, or express like what the importance of like racial equity can be, or just what philanthropy is. So there's just so many different topics, potentially go talk to, or even just talking about my life being a multiracial and what it means, to grow up, being that, but with white skin and the differences that I got to saw my younger brother who doesn't have white skin.
You have a timeline, like you have a deadline in place, or you can do this by this date?
Originally I had said when I came out, I wanted to do it like in 2 years, when I came out of the military. Right now, like I probably say, I guess, if I'm going to set a deadline for myself, it would be by this time next year.
You're going to do it here in Seattle, or?
I'll do it here in Seattle.
Okay.
I know it's usually in the fall, I believe, Seattle's TEDx is. So like not this year, probably be like
I have to imagine that's a pretty competitive process too to get it.
It is. I remember the one that was down. Was that Tacoma?
They did one in Tacoma that Shelley Willis put on.
University of Washington, I think Tacoma.
Okay. I'm thinking about the one they did on JBLM, the Shelley Willis did.
Oh, okay. No, was that on? Maybe it was on JBLM. because Minority Veterans of America, because that's where,
Yeah.
yep, yeah,
That's the
okay,
same,
it wasn't,
the
yep,
same one. Yeah.
yeah. So that was like a small local organized one. So I'd be happy to do something like
Mhm.
that, you know, where first off, they get that practice, get it done. Because yeah, when you go to like a national one or like go to like the main TEDx, like it is very competitive to get into it. So yeah, finding a smaller local one that gets it, you know, I try to go to Toastmasters to be able to improve. And you know, but the thing is, you got to find one speech or one, you know, thing you want to talk about,
Mhm.
build that out, and then continue refining that. I think about the bird in the hand principle: do one thing great first, and just keep building on it.
So, Robert, you talked some about your pitch on Thursday. So I'll be honest with you, right? If
Oh
someone
man,
would have told me beforehand, hey, Jason, you have to bet all your military pay on the one person who will not freeze up, not mess up,
exactly.
I would have put the money in you, right?
You would have or would not
I
have.
would have bet that you would not mess up.
Oh
Like if
yeah,
I had to pick one person I
oh
mess up,
yeah,
I would bet all my money on you. And what's funny, like, so I'm the MC of the event. And so I'm not really paying attention to the picture, right? I'm like on my phone trying to remember who's coming up next so I know what to say. And I hear like silence, right? So I'm not paying
it just
attention.
feels for like forever.
And like, so maybe Robert's like simulating like how deaf people don't hear, right?
Yep.
They hear, I
Nope.
apologize. I said, oh shit, what's going on,
Oh
right?
yeah. And it's like, I don't know. So something I had a great mentor tell me, like, for any time I give a pitch speech, like, go listen to your hype music.
Mhm.
And I didn't do that. There's so many different variables that played a part, and
Mhm.
I'm a person who's going to go analyze it and take it apart and see why. And I'll just, you know, point out some of the things. One, I'm a routine person. I didn't listen to my like hype music or like get ready for it. And actually, that song is "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. Like,
Mhm.
I'll listen to it every time I go to a pitch competition, practice it.
But you never make that mistake again.
I'll never make a mistake again. Like, my wife sat there and she's like, I've never seen you just be blank faced. Like, I've never seen that. And I mean, we've known each other a year and a half. And she's seen me pitch many times, see me speak as well. But like variables of that, the variables of, you know, not having enough sleep, like, and all these are on me. Like, nothing of this is an external thing that stopped me from being able to do it correctly. It's all things that happened because I set that, you know, in play. And, you know, things from being up too late, working on grants, you know, practicing, you know, a little too much probably, you know, and
There's
like
such a
just,
thing. People don't realize such
yeah,
thing as practicing too much.
yeah. And I had it. And I think what, you know, and I did it for my recovery, basically was like, let me just make fun of myself. I got to say something. And that's when I wrote in, you know, like an article literally the next morning and published it. I was like, hey, I didn't walk off the stage. There's part of my mind that says just walk away. Like, that everybody goes through that. I didn't do it. I just said, you know what? Hey, this happens to somebody every time. Why not me tonight? And then I just said what I think I needed to say. And I just walked off. And, you know, you learn from it. You know,
Yeah, I think everyone does have a routine. Like my routine is like when I practice for a speech, or even like what I had to say at the MC. Like I can't practice in front of anyone else. Right, I can't do it right.
yeah.
I can't like I can't practice in front of Robert Wright and do my thing. I have to go. I have to like say it to myself 3 times, do a script, walk around, and find out okay, I'm good, right? You know.
And it's not like it was a script I didn't know, and I wanted to go up there to actually give like the pitch. And you want to go off the cuff, and then when you want to go up there and like just, you know, talk about me or military. So I actually wanted to get the point across what we're trying to do, why it's important, you know, to work on hearing health, and, you know, let people know like what's next for us. It, and just somewhere along the line, you know, my brain just froze, and it wasn't even about, you know, how many people were there. It may have just been part of the camera or whatever, but it wasn't even really that. Just some reason I stood there and it just froze. And it happens. And my mind just went blank. And then I was like, oh crap. I felt like 20 minutes now. What do I say? I'm sorry. Oh crap, it happened again. Shoot. All right. Now I just stop trying to do what you're trying to do and just do what feels comfortable in that
But
moment.
having said that, you know, those are always a positive, right? And the positive for you was the fact, you know, Andrew Clown was able to give a list to everyone, right?
Yeah.
You know, the fact, you know, we all have loved ones, you know,
Yep.
stuff like happens, you know, and
Oh yeah.
he would never done that if that happened, right? You know,
No. Like, I would have never experienced that. And like, so when I was going for promotion in the military, I, you know, E6, E5, only been in for a little while. Like, I was ready to go for it. I felt, and like my boss, my rater came up to me. It's like, no, I'm not sending you. I was like, why? And he's like, because you haven't felt enough. Like, you haven't learned enough experiences to know what to do to take care of those who are underneath you. And was it right or wrong? Who knows? But I understood the point of why he said that, that you have to fail or you have to get more life experiences to improve yourself. And like last week was a great life experience for me to improve myself and realize, you know, it will happen to you and it's okay if it happens. Just know what to do when it does happen.
it was great for you. If you do the TEDx talk, if you come out, tie that into your TEDx talk, right? here's a great speech. And oh, by the way, a few years ago, I totally bombed this pitch, you know,
Yeah.
in front of like 25 people. Here I you know, just went off on this like TEDx talk.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's, and that's the great way. You see a lot of comedians you speak about that sometimes. Like if you're doing satirical comedy, or you want to make fun of a regime, or something along that line. Sometimes it's easier to make fun of what they are trying to do. Make fun of a policy versus make fun of that regime. So that night, I remember watching those videos and learning and reading that and saying, what, I just need to make fun of myself for making a mistake, and it's okay that I made a mistake.
It happens to everyone, right? Because people don't realize, or maybe they don't remember, like when Dave Chappelle had his famous show, he left, was gone for like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
He started doing stand up again, right? And he was bombing.
Oh yeah.
He was getting booed. Like Dave Chappelle was getting booed. Yeah, because he hadn't done it for so long. Like he was horrible at it, right?
And again, the COVID year, and like a lot of us haven't done this in person. That was literally the first live event. I had actually spoken at, like, publicly, not just on the Zoom. And it's so different to do it on the Zoom because you can feel
you got the notes right here.
Yeah, or you like have it on your screen. Like there's different things. You have different keys.
There's no, you don't worry about connecting with people.
Yeah, in your in your own house or your own little cubicle of a room or something, and it's just a different atmosphere, a different feel. So yeah, I rather have it happen now than wait until I'm like in front of a major like pitch competition again and like get up there and blow it. Not to say that I will, not to say I won't, but it's just a difference.
So Robert, talk to somebody about your company. Like talk about how the idea came about, the origin story. What you focus on right now, and what's your big vision for the company moving forward?
Yeah, so the origin story literally happened right as before COVID happened, and that's kind of what pushed me into it. I've been wearing a hearing aid for the last 7 years. I lost most of my hearing in my left ear. I lost most of my ear bones. And I have a titanium eardrum now. About 6 years ago, it got put into place. So February of 2020, I went to University of Washington. They had a guest speaker lecture about accessibility. And they're going to speak, of course, of hearing, invisible disabilities, other things. So I went there and my hearing aid was broken, the mold of it. It's another whole long story, my challenges with having this. So I asked for a hearing assisted device. First time I ever asked for it. I just want to see what it was like. And for everybody who remembers what a Walkman looks like with a foam headset, that's literally what they handed me. It's a Walkman device with a foam headset. I'm like,
in 2020?
Exactly. That's literally what I said to my wife, my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, it's like, Ashley, like seriously, they just hand me something that looks like a Walkman. And I'm sitting about from me to you, maybe a couple more feet from the person, front row. I put it on and it's not working. Like it's staticky. It's not picking up the signal from the microphone. So long story short, like they have in these systems is called a loop feedback system. So it's basically like an FM transmitter, just like the radio. So the person who's speaking to the microphone at the podium, transmits to the FM system that then transmits down to my hearing assisted device, the Walkman. And that wasn't working. And I was just telling myself, like, again, it's 2020. Why can't I pull out my AirPods and connect my iPhone to this FM system? So that led me down this whole rabbit hole about FM systems, how to improve accessibility. Like for those who are hearing, who have hearing loss, like myself, I try not to use the word hearing impaired. I try to say we're not impaired. We just have, we have a disability with a big A inside of there. So that led me around a rabbit hole. And then I started learning about my own hearing aid. Like I didn't even know the brand of my hearing aid was. And I've been wearing it for 6 years.
I like tell that story. I like comparison you use, like going to the eye store and going to hearring aid store.
Yeah, like when you go,
to me, that tells you a story right
exactly.
there.
Like when you go get, you can go to whatever Warby Parker, and there's all these glasses on the wall. You can see all the brand names, and you get to select the one you want. When I went to my audiologist on active duty in the VA, there was no wall of hearing aids for me to select from. There was no little cut sheet they handed to me and said, hey, which one of these is cool for you? Which one would you like? It was, all right, we're going to give you this hearing aid. I don't know the name of the company. I didn't know what it does. I didn't even know hearing aids have Bluetooth in it, and mine doesn't. And that was just frustrating as I learned that. And I was like, this is wrong. This is BS. Something needs to be done. So I learned that there was a new law that was passed in the U.S. 2017, the FDA Reauthorization Act, that then said, hey, Congress told the FDA, we need you to open up the over-the-counter market space for hearing aids. So then that's when I started doing more research, started like doing product market fit, looking at the what the market looks like, realizing by 2050, hearing loss globally will double. Right now, it's about almost 500 million people have some form of hearing loss. Here in the US, it's close to 40 million. And most people who have mild, moderate hearing loss, like myself, either one, don't know it, or two, just feel like get along without a hearing aid right now. Just like when you like start thinking you need glasses, but you're okay. You don't need them just yet. I can still drive my car. That's okay. But when you can't see right and you need to get them, then you get them. But the thing with hearing is when you lose your hearing, it's gone forever. Like you ain't getting it back. You ain't going to get PRK for your ears or, LASIK. So it's gone. There's a lot of late adult impacts that we are now learning and recognizing when you lose your hearing. So for myself, I have mild and moderate hearing loss. I'm at 400% of a more likely to develop early onset Alzheimer's versus someone who doesn't have it. I know that now. So if I don't work on my brain and train the cognition piece of it by wearing a hearing aid, I'm not going to be able to stave that off.
Is there a stat somewhere that says like how percentage of people having to have a hearing test since elementary school?
Yeah, I mean, don't know what the true stat is out there, but during our customer research discovery, every person I asked, like, hey, when the last time you got your hearing test? They couldn't even tell me. Most people couldn't even remember, unless it was somebody who knew they had hearing loss and they just went and got it. And I was like, I was befuddled by it because every year I got a hearing test in the military. Now, if you're certain government jobs, DOT, Department of Transportation, yeah, you get a hearing test. But if you're out in the civilian world, like it's just something that's not required. I think Congress now has pushed it. So like if you have Medicare, Medicaid, like you're going to get, or Medicare, you're going to get a hearing test every year, for certain reasons. But yeah, it's just not pushed. And hearing loss is a progressive, as you age, it's not an if, but it's a when. You are going to lose some hearing. It just happens.
Can you talk about how you do your audio validation in more detail?
Say that again.
How do you do audio validation?
Oh, like audiology, so when you go in for an audiology, you see them, or even a hearing aid specialist is going to fit you, or even like some of their primary care doctors, they just do a pure tone hearing test, and it is a test. It's just doing it. The screening is the whole process. So words matter. So they'll do a pure tone the challenge there is, again, going back to glasses, like if I tell somebody I got 20/20 vision, they exactly know what I mean. I tell somebody I got mild, moderate hearing loss, and I'm 20 decibels less than the 60 hertz. Like I'm all talking Greek now to them. And that is something in our industry that like, there is no like a standard number. I can't say, oh, I got a 3 out of a 5 in my left ear or 5 out of 5 in my right ear, because you're looking at different, levels of frequency and different levels of loss. So as the audiologist learns that through the hearing test, you may do a speech recognition test where certain letters, consonants, or certain letters together, like CH, SH, you may not recognize because of your hearing loss at that frequency and at that decibel. And I have some of that too. Or you may have high frequency loss where you can't hear high frequency, so you don't understand a lot of some of the words out there. So they'll do those 2 tests, come back, they'll say, cool, this is what we see as your hearing loss level. We're going to order you a hearing aid. And then when it comes in, we're going to adjust it. We're going to fit it to your ear, fit it to this level of loss. And then you go about your merry way until you need to have it adjusted or fixed, or you get your next checkup. The problem with some of this is that a hearing aid costs about average $2,500. Some people pay $6,000 for a hearing aid. Some people have to pay for 2 of them. And I always made the jokes during my pitches in the beginning of this a year ago is, hey, instead of, you can get 2 hearing aids or you can buy a car. Like you can go get a used car for $12,000. Like, why do people have to choose between I got to drive or I need to hear? Like both are, hearing is also not a necessity defined mostly by a lot of the medical insurance companies. It's not a necessity device to have a hearing aid. That's trying to change right now in Congress. So go back to the whole process piece of it. As you're adjusting it and you get it, then you continually go see an audiologist every year that get it adjusted. Some people don't go back, and that's the other challenge. When you pay $2,500, you're paying for future services of an audiologist. And if you don't go back, you basically gave somebody free money away.
So the hearing test Army does not anything like the hearing test you just described.
No, it's still it's the same. Pure tone hearing tests are just like the beeps you hear at different frequencies at different,
But in the Army, it was like, oh, see, I haven't heard nothing in 10 seconds. Let me raise my hand, right?
Exactly. Like you memorize it.
And it starts playing tricks on you, right?
Yep. I had to go to the audiologist here at the VA when I first, like as I got out, and I was like, I told him straight away, I was like, hey, when you give me a hearing test, don't give me the general pure tones. I need, I can't remember the number or whatever. I need this other pure tone because I have most of it memorized. Like my brain remembered it, or my brain thinks it hears that tone. And I'm going to hit the button incorrectly. They're supposed to be able to notice that and adjust for it. But you can also, once you learn the pattern recognition of it and it beeps and you wait a couple seconds, it's going to beep again. So you can cheat on your hearing tests for the pure tone. You can't cheat on the hearing screening in a sense, because you're hearing people speak words like under like a wind conditions or a restaurant, and you're trying to either repeat them or select them on a screen if you're doing it virtually. So, I mean, it's the same test from both the military and civilian side. Just speech recognition is what really makes a little bit of a difference. There's about 5, I think, variations of it. Not every audiologist agrees on which one to use.
And what's your vision for the company?
So vision for the company. So we're not just, focusing on a hearing aid. Like our mission is to improve the hearing health of the world. So I used to say, and we're still defining more of our strategic narrative, is like we do this, through engagement, education, and providing like innovative solutions. Engagement is like today, I'm trying to, engage the world, engage customers, engage consumers, engage audiologists on different ways that we can improve this. How do you go down a different beaten path to the same problem to solve it? It's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing repeatedly, expecting different results. That's what's happening. So instead of doing that, education, again, like today, educating people, understanding, like, and then the last line of my pitch always says, like, hearing loss is the silent epidemic. It costs our communities billions of dollars. And it's true. Like, look globally, the WHO just released that. So engagement, education, people understanding why hearing loss is important and that we need to actually do something about it. And then innovative solutions, looking at the hearing aid housing. Only one company recently kind of changed it around, Stiletto. It's something that we're working on. We're working on a customized housing. The one I have on my ear right now, I can't go run with it. Why? Why can't I go run my hearing aid? It's ridiculous that it's not form fitting. There's certain things in it that should be different. Why don't I have Bluetooth? So innovative solutions is looking at the hearing aid. We're looking at hearing protection. How do we help people on the other side? And then we're, building out what we call our hearing health continuum that helps inform not just consumers, but audiologists of the best product for their patients, because again, I've taken a product test, whatever, saying, oh, what's the best hearing aid for me? I got a 54% match. Are you going to wear a 54% match hearing aid?
Hopefully not.
It's not my brand that they matched me to, but based off their algorithm, their questions I answered, they tell me 54% is the best hearing aid that works for me. And it's unbelievable.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. So that's like our hearing health continuum. That's what we're building right now as a software, as a SaaS model to start, looking at licensing, white labeling it to audiologists, to healthcare groups, because again, the impact audiologists can make with a patient is huge, but the time they spend with them is not always impactful. They don't sometimes ask the right questions, or they don't understand our whole quality of life issues. I had to go back to the VA and say, hey, why don't I have Bluetooth? And they're like, oh, well, we didn't know you wanted that. Well, yeah, it's impacting my quality of life. So they say, sorry, but we'll give you a secondary device around your neck. So then it connects to your hearing aid, it connects to your phone. I'm like, wait a minute. Again, it's 2020. You're going to give me a secondary device to wear around my neck? So now, as a person who has
hilarious.
A disability, like people sometimes may see my hearing aid. So like the whole stigma comes into play. Like, shoot, now I got to wear a hearing aid, and I got to wear a device around my neck, and I got to worry about like when it's going to connect. Like it's too much. Like one device should be working, and that's it.
So Rob, you talked about how using the eyeglasses, there's all these eyeglass companies out there innovating, but there's really no innovation in hearing. Why is no innovation in the hearing side?
So the hearing aid innovation comes into software. Companies, and again, my opinion, companies like Facebook Reality Labs, who has a huge sound barometric room that they're studying how sound travels and hits the ear in different wavelengths. Phenomenal what they're doing in the software that's going to come out of it. So the software is going to keep innovating. But again, you're taking a digital product and taking an analog sound and making it digital. So it's not natural hearing. It's not natural sounds that you end up creating. That's why you get a lot of feedback. That's the times I go like this, my hearing aid, I can hear the feedback and the crunching. So software, as it gets better, will be able to do that. Oticon recently released like their new version of their software, like with AI and machine learning in it, trying to improve that and have like, thousands of sounds that are natural sounds that play into your ear and it automatically recognize that. So innovation happens there. The innovation is happening like on the hardware side has been slow, in my opinion. When you have a hearing aid, that's now fitting in ears, great, but you have the chips that are in them, why haven't they been able to always connect to Bluetooth? Why haven't they been able to connect into other transmission systems? So there are some challenges there that we need the chip companies, which digital signal processor companies, to innovate faster. But hearing aid manufacturers got to push them and say, this is what we want, instead of sitting back saying, hey, we're cool with what the standard is. We don't need to change it.
Even though standard's only 54%.
Exactly. So as the standards just sit there, hearing manufacturers now have been put on notice as the OTC market comes open. So those who have mild, moderate hearing loss will be able to buy a hearing aid without having to go and see an audiologist. And that is huge because so many people who have mild, moderate hearing loss either don't know, like I said, have hearing loss. Now they recognize it and they see the impactful of it. And they want to buy a hearing aid. They don't have to go spend $2,500. They can spend anywhere between, as the market's going to look at it, it's going to be between $300 and $900 for a hearing aid, most likely.
Can you talk the process how you actually building this product, how you're building this hardware?
Yeah.
So building hardware is not easy.
No, it's not. As the saying always goes, hardware is hard. I've learned that. We're kind of pivoting and transitioning a little bit away from how we're doing it. In school, again, I'm not a technical founder. I had mechanical engineers. I've been learning all this on my own as well with them. And basically had parts come in and we're learning how to build a printed circuit board where the part's supposed to go and design that. It's not a lot of parts that go inside of a hearing aid. The best way I always explain to somebody is it has a heart, it has a brain, it has a mouth, it has an ear. It kind of has, a neck, I guess. And that's pretty much it. It speaks for you, the brain being the digital signal processor, the microphones, are your mouth as it speaks for you into your ear. So it's that way of looking at it. It's great. It has to be in a certain shape, form, or fashion to fit into your housing. So we're developing customized housing. So that's where we've been studying people's ears, looking at different ways that we can make them fit, different tactile material, different designs out there. Can you make it almost like an accessory fashion to your ear? Make it a part of your lifestyle, not just bland color that's sitting in my ear and it matches my hair color as I roll my eyes. So we've been building it in house. We've been working a lot like University of Washington, using their labs while I was in grad school, and then doing things from home. I'm so thankful to the Burke Center as we received prototype funding earlier this year, as we went to a competition to help us actually start building a low fidelity prototype. So I built, our housing and design, looking at what that can look like. So the pivot right now for us is we recognize we lack certain experiences. So we already know that we need to work with an original design manufacturer. We have an amazing distributor, Celltech, that we work with. So with them, we're identifying an ODM, original design manufacturer. We'll start getting them the specs at what we want, and then we'll start looking at companies to a contract with.
So I could be wrong, but everyone's eyes are different, right?
Yeah.
So it's safe to assume everyone's eardrums are different too?
Yeah. I mean, some people's eardrums sit in different places. I mean, it's still the same predominant, anatomy, but for myself, I used to have a skin growing over my eardrum. So it was receding and a cavity behind it. That happens to a lot of people. So, it's different for everyone. I have a titanium eardrum now that doesn't sit exactly in the right place. I can push on the back of my ear where it should be sitting and hold it, and I can hear so much better. So that happens too. Everybody's the eustachian tube, which goes from your outer ear into your middle ear, that little canal. A lot of people's are really closed up. Some are really open. That's why they have things called PE tubes. They put into it, open them up, expand it. Happens a lot for young children with sinus problems like myself. So yeah, it's a different anatomy when it comes to, that part of it, or difference in how the anatomy sits. And then everybody has different levels of hearing loss at different frequencies.
So totally random question.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to stick a Q-tip in your ear to clean out the wax?
Heck no, you're not supposed to do that. But we all do it. I mean, the point of the Q-tip, we're trying to clean, really, it's really cleaning the outer ear,
So you're not supposed to jam it to your ear hole and scrape out the brain, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. And I'll put this plug out there. There's a company called Odo Health. Crap, I'm gonna mess up. I'm about to look it up again. So sorry about that. They developed and they're going through with doctors right now, but they developed a headset. It's FDA cleared. You put on your ear at the doctor's office, and it cleans out the earwax.
Oh, wow.
Like it's just crazy to even think about. Like I'm going to put on like a Bose headset, or like I'm going to put on my Beats, and some little machine is going to go down in my ear canal and clean out the wax and like suck it out and pull it back into like the case that's in there to catch it. So yeah, so it's just phenomenal to think about like where hearing health is going, and where we still have leaps and bounds that we can go.
Are hearing standards the same across the world?
Yes.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
there like some kind of international hearing organization? Like,
Yeah,
like the organization of the sky?
like WHO looks a lot at like the hearing. Really not probably international. Here in the U.S., we have an amazing organization called Hearing Loss Association of America. They're predominantly like who focus on hearing loss as a nonprofit in support of consumers. Most of the other nonprofits are in support of like audiologists or the hearing aid manufacturers. So we really don't have much protection or associations except for HLA at the consumer level.
So you say when you lose your hearing, it's gone forever, right?
Yep.
So I'm guessing there's no such thing as an eardrum transplant or nothing like that.
I honestly, I don't know. I'll have to look at that.
Okay.
I know right now there's a new product that's trying to come on the market. It's like FDA like registered. There's some, contention with it, but like trying to put like a contact lens for your hearing, they put some device right up against your, eardrum so they can sit there, and it basically makes it like how you wear a contact on your, your eye, and takes your vision back to perfect. So
what's like the major reason for hear loss? Is it like because someone goes to a concert, and allows sound for one in the blue moon, or is it like constant high sounds, like you hear like construction work every day, or is it just combination
honestly,
of everything?
every person's different. Statistically, noise-induced hearing loss happens from repeated noise exposure above 80 decibels. That is the standard from OSHA. Anything above 80 decibels, companies are supposed to have a hearing conservation program, including the military. We're all supposed to wear hearing protection, either ear muff or earplugs. We didn't wear half the earplugs. You also know there's a civil suit against 3M for their combat earplugs, and what happened with that. So that standard exists. The challenge then is how do you tell people to wear hearing protection? How do you enforce it? So there's some things like that. How do you know it's actually even working? So
I don't think many people are hearing protection at a concert.
Exactly. You may see a child, but yeah, so noise-induced hearing loss happens. There's impact noise where like maybe an explosion, where it comes on suddenly and you lose some of your hearing, or you have like the ringing in the ears, like IEDs, or, even from shooting artillery, like you get rocked, even shooting mortars, you can get rocked up in your head and hear the ringing. So those impact noises or impulse noises happen as well for hearing loss, and you're damaging the little hairs in your your ear and everything, and that's really what it is. So yeah.
So Robert, let's go back to your user manual real fast. Like, did you get this idea from someone else and you came up on your own?
Yeah, it was an assignment. So we have like one class all year long, the same class called leadership in our master's program. So we have the same instructor, Ken Meyer, phenomenal guy. He's been in the startup world and helps a lot of startups, been on boards and done his own companies multiple times. So his assignment was for us to do a user manual, shared the link. Again, you can go on LinkedIn and like search for it. Somebody, I can't think of the person's name, really wrote a huge article on how to write the user manual. I know it wasn't originated from that person, but he does speak about where he got it from. So
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I told, and I asked my interns, and I'll ask them. I recommend they do it as well. I recommend all our volunteers do it, because then I understand how to work with you, because it's super impactful. Because again, I don't have enough time when it comes to email, and I'm paying attention to it. So if something comes across, and if it's not in brackets that says priority, like cool. Or if it's just, I'll send emails out, say bracket, those just say information. And it's just informing, people on the team, like, hey, this is just informational. I don't need a response from you. I just, look at it and read it and know what it says, and that's it. So it kind of gives us, like, again, another one of my values is, talking about like the 6 C's, for communication, clarity and communication and conciseness. And that's where like this user manual comes into place. It gives clarity, it gives conciseness. It helps with my communication with the team.
So Robert, you talked about this some earlier, but like example, I know some people they work, 8-hour weeks. Some people like I know one guy he works 21 days, takes 3 days off. Some people
Wow.
would take 3 days, like 3 hours off every day. What do you do?
Yeah. For me, I do a lot based around actually my wife's schedule. She, doesn't work long days on Monday or long days on Friday. Friday by noon, I shut down. I may do maybe like, I don't do work calls. I don't do anything with the team. I may go work on a PowerPoint presentation or I may get prepared for like the next week, but nothing business wise. I try not to send any emails and I don't have any meetings regardless of who it is afternoon because my wife's done with work and that's my time now with her through the weekend. Some weekends I may have to work, but predominantly, I'm an 8 to 6 or 7 at night because again, that's how my wife's schedule is. So I'm able to take advantage of that and match her schedule. We ride in together for work and then, ride home. So like she works in the city. I come down to the city here to the WeWork office. Mondays I work from home for, probably from about 8 until 4 p.m. And then I cut it off. I try to have Mondays, I try to have no meetings really at all because that's a really hard day. You come right back and we have one team meeting because we're just checking in for the week. But I try to have no other meetings on a Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are my heavy days. And that's on purpose.
So founder wellness is a big thing now, right? How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah. So SVP Seattle, that's one of our questions from our board chair is how are we going to take care of ourselves this summer? How are we going to reinvent ourselves? For me, it's like taking time with the family. So even though I know it's like a week and a half vacation that will be at my wife's family's like lake house later this month, I'll still be working out there, but I've already made an agreement with her and understanding like in the morning from like 8 to 10 when everybody's getting up, I can go do work. We really don't actually have internet out there. So we don't even have running water, but like my wellness is taking that time and blocking it again, putting rails up of saying, hey, I'm going to be, on leave. I'll work a little bit here and there on certain things unless it's important. And then my other wellness piece is, I try to take 1 week in a month to like go out of town, 1 week in a month to go hike. And then, one of course is to recharge, but I try not to fill my weekends with, and again, everybody does it differently. Like the normal household things. I got to go to, Lowe's or Home Depot this weekend, unless I got honey to do or like, chores around the house, I got to fix them. Try to do everything by Friday. That's why I get done work early on Friday. I can do all the laundry and clean the house and we can enjoy ourselves on a weekend. Go to the farmer's market, go take a walk and come to the city for dinner. So,
yeah, one thing we don't talk about enough, or like entrepreneur life still goes on, right? You still gotta wash clothes.
oh yeah,
You gotta do stuff your wife wants. Your kids want stuff,
yeah,
You gotta take the car and get the oil change,
yeah,
All that stuff still has to happen some kind of way.
And we have one car, so like I have to schedule a lot of my appointments because she's a nanny and she needs that to take care of the child. So I schedule a lot of my appointments around the time when she's off work. So again, and I love it that it's easy for me to base everything a lot off her schedule, and it makes it easier for me. And then I just, I love riding public transportation. So I can just get on a bus and ride home if I want to, if I want to go home early, or if I need to ride the train into work earlier than she's coming in.
So Robert, you're doing a lot, right? How do you make sure, like tomorrow's Wednesday, right? How do you make sure Wednesday you're gonna focus and do things 1 to 4 on your priority list, and not get sidetracked and start working on things number 89 to 92 on your list?
I'm not always the best at it, but I live by my calendar, so I put it on my calendar. If I'm gonna whatever's on my calendar, that's what happens. If you want to meet with me, it's not on my calendar, it ain't happening because I just don't know it. It's too much time in the world, or too much time like to focus on all those things too. I don't always have the best memory, so like got to send a calendar invite, or if I don't grab it right then and there. So I put it on a calendar. I'll put like blocks of time saying, all right, this is my time to work on like my Jones and Foster Accelerator application. I have my interview actually tomorrow for the program, the UW. So I'll put that on a schedule. Tonight, this afternoon, I have time for like an hour to practice our, 5-minute pitch tomorrow. So if you don't put it on your schedule or your calendar and block it off, and if you don't take Friday or Monday morning to write out what you're going to do for that week and accomplish it, you're just not going to get it. You're going to just bounce around from idea to idea.
Do you have any other tools you use, like Asana, Trello, or whatever case may be?
Well, so from, I do have smart sheets. I've tried smart sheets, Jira, Trello, Asana. They all are great and they do different things. Depends on your team. So that's been the other challenges. You get all the same people who know how to use the same stuff. So that can be hard when you come out of schools too. So I do use smart sheets a lot. One thing I do use that's not like a technical tool really is a check-in. I started doing this years ago. Now I do it with my wife. I actually do it with Founder Institute, our biweekly check-in. And the question is, what went well last week? What didn't go well? And where can I help you next week? So like if you're a team, you're asking your people what went well for them, what didn't go well, where can you help them next week? And then how do you, look at each other's calendars and manage it? And that's what I do with my wife every week. So we know exactly where I need her support at for certain events, like last week's Bunker Labs event. She knows and she's going to after work come to it. So then we're able to, excuse me, be able to manage our time and manage like our tasks a lot appropriately.
Robert, is there anything that I should have asked you to haven't, or anything else you want to talk about?
No, we talked about a lot, which I really appreciated. Yeah, I think it is phenomenal to be able to share all that. Almost all those things tied to each other in some shape, form, or fashion. The other thing, like you also touched on a lot of like what are different identities for everybody. And, as you look into it, everybody realizes we're all, we're not just, a veteran. I'm not just a entrepreneur. I'm not just a husband, but I have all these other identities and they all cross boundaries each other at different times. And that's what makes us very unique. And that's what makes us like work even harder, mostly.
Robert, can you share your social media so people can reach out to you?
So our handle is at Hear Your World. That is on Instagram as well as on Twitter, Hear Your World. And for LinkedIn and for Facebook, it is just Sound Sustainability at the end. And our hashtag that we use predominantly across everything is hashtag Hear Your World.
And to our listeners, we have the links to social media on our show notes. You can find our show notes at www.CavnesssHRblog.com. And don't forget to sign up for a beta testing waitlist at www.CavnesssHR.co. So, Robert, we're coming to the end of our talk. Can you give us any wisdom or advice or anything you want to go over?
I mean, I love your, phrase, as you open up with, and I think having a phrase like that or having a mantra is what I would tell you. Find your mantra. For me, it's my 4 agreements. There's others for me, but when you find your mantra and you can live by it, it just makes everything so much easier about your life.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Remember to be great every day.